So you come back and your baby boy is healed. But even then you struggle to surrender to the power of the Holy Spirit and the manifestations of the things of the Holy Spirit. But there was an evening you were telling me about where you were praying and you couldn't.
When we moved, that I was telling you about this purple house up there, and she said, I'll be willing to move up here, because that was another 2 hours.
Okay.
It was only like 25 miles from where we were living.
Right.
But it was well over an hour. Just the roads were so terrible bad. And again, went over 11,000 feet. And we met a guerrilla army one time living there. And then finally the guerrillas took over the area and we had to get out of there. But while we were there, I went back. She was fixing supper and I went back to our bedroom and I got down on my knees and I opened the Bible, and there was these books and the tapes, praying in the Spirit in a brand new tongue, speaking to my Father in the language of love, and all of this. Instead of it being this hated, I mean, we've made jokes. Why do the world records keep getting sent back? Well, the hole keeps healing up. We made fun. What do you think of tongues? Oh, I think everybody ought to have one. We made fun of tongues. You were scared to death to even associate.
It wasn't just us, it was the people in the area
couldn't even have
were in our
friends.
position.
Right.
And obviously we were afraid of Vivian, your mom, because she was the one who came from that background.
Right.
So we were wanting to be a million miles from it, but God kept doing things, and so here I am, and I went in there, and it was about 5 o'clock in the evening, and I opened up my Bible to 1 Corinthians chapter 14, and I began to read, and he that speaks in an unknown tongue speaks unto God, for no man understands him, howbeit by the Spirit he speaks mysteries. And it said, the first verse says, seek the best gifts. And I said, God, what do you mean, seek the best gifts? What do you mean? And just so clear, the Spirit of God said, it's my word. Just read it and receive it, believe it. Just take it for it,
Stop trying to figure. You had this doctrine, and you had teachings, and you had tried to dissect of why this shouldn't be, and why things are the way they are, and you had all this teaching and all this religion and all this training, and the Holy Spirit says, just read the Bible, believe what it says. Way it's written.
I had gone to the Baptist missionary and I said, what do you have against tongues? Do you have any material? And I borrowed from the Nazarene missionary, Harold Ray, Frank Martin, the Baptist.
So you're actually reading, while you're reading stuff about tongues, you're also reading stuff that's against tongues.
I am going to write the book that is going to expose it and blow it out of the water.
Okay.
And the Christian Missionary Alliance said, seek not, seek not and forbid not.
Forbid not.
And I wasn't strong enough, but at least there was something there. And the Baptists, I forget that book. The Corinthian Catastrophe was the name of the book he gave me. The Corinthian Catastrophe, because in Corinthians they talk about the tongues. Harold Ray, I forget the Nazarene missionary, what he gave me, and I was going to write the book that was going to destroy it all. And what I kept finding in all of them is no one could handle 1 Corinthians 1 through 3. No one. If a man speaks in tongues, no man understands him, because we always said, well, yeah, it's a language, so that God uses that. That's what happened on the day of Pentecost, and people understood in their own tongue. And so there was a reason for it. And today it's not reasonable. Tongues have passed away. Mark, the last chapter of Mark, that was a bad translation. That's not in some of the. That's not in some of the original
but the Holy
text.
Spirit speaks to you that night and says, just read it and believe it the way it's written.
Yeah, yeah. It's
Okay.
like,
Well, was that when I
read it
was came in?
No, not yet, not yet.
Oh.
So that same night, that was at 5 o'clock in the evening, and that was real. And I read that, and it was like, I've been trying so hard, and this, and finally I yielded. I gave up. The Lord had spoken to me so sweetly, and so during the night, probably 3 o'clock in the morning, I woke up. But when I woke up, I was alarmed. It was like you feel you're head of the house and there's a thief that's broken in. Somewhere there's something, alarm. And so I stopped. And when I got my bearings, and there wasn't anything to be afraid of, and I saw things were okay there. And then I got to thinking, no, this is a spiritual warfare. This is a battle. What's going on? Is there somebody in our family? And I began to pray for our family wherever they were, Pennsylvania and Tennessee and Florida. And I just did my best in English to pray for everybody and everything. And I would pray a little bit in English, and it was just so insufficient. And I kept hearing, pray in tongues. And I began to pay attention to that. I thought, oh God, do I dare? And so I allowed myself to say a syllable, and it just flowed like water. Oh, so I was like, and it began to flow, and I'm laying there quietly, and I'm praying in tongues, and over an hour went by, and I just prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed, and the water flowed and flowed and flowed, and I finally went back to sleep. I don't know what time it was. I went back to sleep. She came in. She had left the bed, and I never even knew it. I was sleeping so sound. She went out and was having devotions herself, and she came in, and she said, honey, and she's crying, and hot tears are falling off her face and on the mine, and she said, honey, she said, oh, sorry to bother you, but I haven't felt the presence of God like this for so long. And I had drug her from pillar to post. I mean, from California, Florida, Tennessee, back. Her family was dyed-in-the-wool Nazarenes. Her dad was so strong Nazarene. His brothers, one pastor over 50 years, Montana Avenue Church Nazarene in Cincinnati, and the other one was his Sunday school superintendent most of the time.
So Wanda, your experience, that same night, you encountered the presence of God. Just came upon you, came over you.
But I didn't. Tongues what he meant that.
Right. But you were just overwhelmed with the
felt
presence
the presence of God. Yeah.
It just moved you to that point. So you get up.
So she wakes me up with hot tears and kisses. And the Holy Spirit let me know that I had been praying for her in the Spirit.
Right.
Didn't know how to pray, but I had prayed well.
Right.
I knew that, and this was the result, and the Lord let me know.